The Lion King is out, and as of this taping, is having a tricky time feeling all the love at 60% fresh. The reviews are still trickling in and really could go either way at this point, but the trek up this rock is feeling steeper than expected, something the last two Disney live-action films have also experienced. Dumbo at 46% rotten, and Aladdin at 57% rotten. Could we be facing Disney live-action fatigue? Hi everyone, I'm Mark Ellis. Welcome to the After Show. Yes, I was saying live action in air quotes. So happy to welcome y'all to this particular discussion. If you have not yet seen the new Lion King, fair warning, this is a spoiler-heavy discussion, so be prepared. I am so excited to welcome some A-list members of the Pride here to the chat. Ladies and gentlemen, she is a Rotten Tomatoes editor. Miss Jacqueline Coley's here.
How y'all doing?
Oh, we get applause today from the crew, too. And she is Geek Bomb host Maude Garrett.
Oh, hey, yeah, what's up?
In a very seasonal, I guess, for the moment, for the discussion.
Get applause. Let's give Maude some applause.
That's better.
Well, we saved the best round of applause for laugh because we're in the presence of greatness, ladies and gentlemen. Rotten Tomatoes editor-in-chief, the one, the only, Mr. Joel Meares is here today. Oh, this is so exciting to have all y'all here. So what we do on this show is we like to talk about the movie in depth, but before we get into that discussion, I do want to just pitch it to each panelist really quick. Is this movie fresh or rotten? Because I go into this thinking, oh, well, it's Disney, it's The Lion King. Of course it's going to be fresh. My opinion is that it's a very fresh movie. I enjoyed myself start to finish. Jacqueline Coley, am I crazy?
Fresh. And this injustice will not stand about this movie not being fresh as far as I'm concerned. I literally brought out my tinfoil hat this weekend because it's a grand conspiracy. This is a good movie, y'all. Don't let the score fool you.
All right, Maude, you agree with that? Is this a fresh, based on your shirt, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, it's fresh as. I think that not only has the look of this movie matured, but so has my take on it, because I'm seeing and watching this movie from a whole different perspective of the adult. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay, now, Joel, you are also an adult, as far as we know, but you also, the editor-in-chief of Rotten Tomatoes, and we're kind of looking at it right now. This thing is barely clinging to fresh. This is like Mufasa on the edge of the cliff, and one Scar review could come along and knock it off. Do you think this is a fresh movie?
Fresh-ish.
Fresh-ish.
Yeah, so I think I understand why the score is where it's at. I enjoyed this film for what it is. I think it's beautiful. There is a lot to recommend it. I don't disagree with anything that's been said so far, although I'm sure I'll disagree in a few minutes with some things that are said. But I didn't feel anything, and I was left a little cold by this Lion King. And I'm not a heartless person. I will cry at the drop of a hat. That Subway commercial, like, it had me in tears. But this film didn't quite get to the Subway level for me.
You couldn't feel the love tonight?
I didn't feel the love. I felt a lot of like.
I'm so happy Maude made that pun for me because I'm already done with my quota of Lion King gags today. So, Joel, I want to stick with you for a minute with our first topic, which is, are you surprised that the movie is right at that level of could be fresh, could be rotten? Because, again, this thing comes out, and even regardless of what I felt about the movie, just seeing all the ads for it and seeing the excitement that fans had for it, you would expect this thing to be up in the 80s or 90s, right?
I was surprised. I don't know that I was expecting the score to be that high, but the audience I saw it with certainly was into this film. I was telling the guys earlier, the woman next to me was singing along, fist pumping, which made my experience
I'm right here,
awkward.
how dare you?
Yeah, exactly. She's sitting next to me now on the Australian couch. But I think I was surprised that it is so low, to be honest. I was expecting it to be slightly higher, but we have to understand that this is, for many people going to see this movie, particularly people who do this for a living and have to think about the industry a lot and think about the state of culture and art, they're going and seeing this not just as The Lion King or The Lion King 2019, they're seeing this as The Lion King, the 10th live-action remake from Disney since Alice in Wonderland.
Yes.
And so this film opens with a huge amount of baggage because people are really divided over what Disney's doing at the moment with these live-action remakes, and the whole concept, the whole nature of this film is divisive to certain people, and that discussion is really bleeding into the reviews and the takes that people have of this film. So I'm surprised that it's not in the 70s or maybe low 80s, but not overly surprised that there is something of a backlash coming through.
Yeah, Maude, I agree with Joel's point that I think that a lot of it is just people's commentary on should we be having these live-action remakes. So the score being as low as it is that something that kind of surprised you?
Oh, big time. And I don't think that it's fair to a movie, a standalone movie, to own and wear the baggage of its predecessors and the decisions that Disney's making as a company on the whole. I think same sort of thing in the cinema for the world premiere. Everyone's cheering and applauding at the end of every scene, let alone act. There's such a great atmosphere in there. I was singing every word, which... whatever. But I absolutely loved it, and I thought that it looked brilliant. The story was there. They kept it authentic to what the original was whilst adding new elements to it, and I thought that that really worked. Timon and Pumbaa stole the show for me. I thought that that duo and that upgrade was fantastic. I mean, it's not a perfect film, but I absolutely enjoyed it.
Yeah, Jacqueline, I think that that's the other question that people have as well. Is this going to be as good as the original simply because we've seen the original, and Maude's able to sing with every song, and maybe it didn't do enough differently to win critics over? Is that why you see that score so low?
I mean, I have a hard time with it, especially with the critic community that so often sees a foreign language entry and then an English language remake and can equally like the two of those. That's the way I kind of looked at this. I looked at this as this is a different language, meaning the medium of computer hyper-realistic, photorealistic images. That is a different medium to animations. You are going to lose things by going into this next medium, and you are going to gain things by going into this next medium. And I just think when you balance the two together, that's where you kind of have to basically leave it where it is. And I do think this has a ton of upgrades. I don't know where it sits in the ledger against the masterpiece that the first one is. I don't think it's fair to compare the two. However, I think there was a lot of care being placed in this. Jon Favreau put a lot of respect to the original and a lot of deference to the filmmakers and also to Julie Taymor for what she did in the stage play. Because this is not just an adaptation of the animated classic, it's also an adaptation of the stage play, and infusing that in there for one is a huge upgrade. The Nala character's storyline is a huge upgrade, regardless of what some of y'all may think about Beyonce. Yes, I am a stan, and so as far as I'm concerned, the movie is a masterpiece because it has Beyonce. Yes, I'll admit it. However, that doesn't mean I can't acknowledge the fact that Beyonce's a great singer, maybe not the best voice actor. You know what I'm saying? Like, even I can admit that.
Ooh, you're stirring the hive.
I know the hive is going to come from me.
The comments direct them at Jacqueline Coley, please.
Trust me, she's great. But I do think when you put her alongside someone like Billy Eichner, who is a tried and true actor, he does voice acting, he literally does improv, you can't compare the two. They're separate roles, but you can't compare.
Right, well, this might be the easiest spoiler review we've ever done, because if you've seen the original Lion King, you know what's going to happen in this movie, and it's not shot for shot, but it is beat for beat. The big difference, obviously, being the photorealistic CGI, it's not even performance or motion capture. I mean, this is rendered by artists, and I think that being the big difference, Maude, is this live-action remake, is it taking enough risks? Or do you think that it's supposed to stay with the source material for this particular film?
I think that this is the movie where they can do that, because it's not actors having their own sort of like creative input, having their own creative license with it. They have absolute control over how this looks. I think the problem that you're finding here is that the choice to make it as realistic as possible whilst trying to retain the emotions of the characters, that's where it's falling short a little bit. I mean, the beautiful scene where Simba first eats the grubs and it has this ugh moment, you're not going to see a realistic lion do that because it cannot physically do that. It doesn't have that emotion. And another little gripe that I have, and I'm so sorry for this, but if you're going to make a realistic looking lion, a cub, and hold it up, and there's no male parts.
Oh, you wanted to see more nudity, I guess.
But this is the thing where it's like you're making this choice, but then you have to figure out where to draw the line. Lion. Ah!
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Joel, I would say that they drew the line correctly with the
I think
holding
so.
up of
Yeah.
Simba.
I will say I missed a lot about this
Snaky.
film. Lion Pain was not one of those things. I actually don't feel.
You have to take a moment for Lion
Let's have a
King.
beat, Lion Pain. But I actually don't personally feel like they did take enough risks. Jacqueline, you mentioned the stage show. I didn't see the stage show in this production at all, and I felt they could have really drawn from that. There's a lot of beautiful music in that stage show. There's a lot of more development that happens in that stage show, and I don't think it was integrated. I felt that Favreau, who I agree did a beautiful job of directing and putting together this replica. I don't think they drew enough. And I think the Nala storyline, again, I don't think it was expanded enough. I think if you look at what they did with Jasmine in Aladdin, that felt different to me from the original characterization. This Nala, they gave her a bit more like creeping around the rock with Scar and stuff, but they didn't take it nearly as far as they could have taken it to give us something that was worth revisiting, I feel.
You hear the term cash grab thrown around sometimes too, because everybody knows, like, if you do this level of CGI and it looks as realistic as it did, I mean, I think that it did further that evolution forward. But I think that people are going to say, well, it's The Lion King, of course you knew you're going to make boatloads of money doing this. And we've had 3 Disney live-action remakes in the last 4 months with Dumbo and then Aladdin and now The Lion King. So is the term cash grab fair, Jacqueline?
I mean, yeah, but so is any movie that goes into the box office for a certain, idea. They don't put these out because they love us. They put them out to make money. I'm so sorry, like, if you didn't guess that by now, I don't know, maybe you've missed the whole box office.
Are you saying it's a business?
Yeah, it's a business. And so, yes, I think Disney is making a strategic decision. However, you can still do that with care, with integrity. You can still do it with a reverence and a love for the original. You can do both. You can say, I'm doing this to make money, maybe win some awards, and also because I care and want to give this new version to a new audience. Look, I think you can do both, and it doesn't necessarily. Why did we make Endgame? They wanted it to make money. So I get why people are angry about it. I do think they're picking the wrong properties to revisit, in my personal opinion.
Well, that's interesting you bring that up because those movies that I referenced that have already come out, Dumbo and Aladdin, both, like I mentioned at the top of the show, not as well received as when Cinderella came out. And everybody's like, oh, great, because there's a great graphic that Rotten Tomatoes did where you see the lineage of Disney live-action films as far back as the 1994 Jungle Book, which is fresh. And then we got a little rotten for a while. And then we came back with the film of the Jungle Book with all the animals that Jon Favreau had done, Cinderella, the Alice in Wonderlands take it down a little bit. And so it's been through peaks and valleys, but Maude, it seems like we're almost going down another valley at this point.
Big time, yeah. I think, there is such thing as inundation. And I think that when you're not even letting things mellow, we had the same thing with Star Wars, I feel, where it was just trying to push out as many movies as possible because it was making so much money. And by the time we got to Solo, it was just like, I'm not even enjoying this ride anymore. Like, there is too much of a good thing
That's
that can
my defense of Solo. It's not a cash grab because it didn't grab that much.
That's it. They burnt it out. There was just powder coming out of the cash cow. So I think, if we just slow the roll a little bit, what's the rush? Why do we have to have it all so fast? And you're exactly right. There are some stories that don't need retelling, and Dumbo was one of them. Let's talk about the elephant that was captured and made to perform for people's entertainment. That was not fun to watch.
Peter loved that one. But wait a minute, to your point though about, like, I guess this whole lineage of the live action and how many they keep going, for a studio that has Marvel, that is literally giving you the blueprint for how to slow roll to a grand crescendo. Their 2 side studios being Lucasfilm and Disney proper, they literally do not follow that formula at all. It's all pedal to the metal. It gives me a new reverence for Kevin Feige's strategy and how he's able to maybe push back.
Well, something that Kevin Feige said, I interviewed him recently, and what was amazing was that he only thinks in 5 and then 10-year increments. So he's not thinking about how we can get this out month to month. It's like really he thinks in long-term strategies. And I think that that's so smart. Yeah,
and I want to get into what we're going to be seeing from Disney live action coming up. Mulan, we just saw the trailer for that. That's going to be a little bit later in the show. But for right now, let's move on to our next topic. And Jacqueline, I just want to ask you about the highs and lows of this this movie. What did you think about, what were your favorite parts? What was maybe not the more of a meow than a roar for you?
Actually, it's interesting. So one of the highs was the Timon and Pumbaa character, their relationship. Billy Eichner is definitely going to break out from this. I really feel he got to shine when Seth Rogen talks about Billy in the movie. He's like, that's just him. They captured him. And what those guys could really do in that booth is really magical. And I think more people should pay attention to it. The lows for me, be prepared. That was a huge
Joel, you are nodding your head in agreement?
Miss.
Yeah, I think it's a beat poet rendition of a thrilling Broadway song that doesn't quite land. I will say on the Be Prepared front, could you imagine, though, a full version like the original? Because I think that would just get weird with those weird-faced hyenas sort of singing along. I don't know that they maybe they should have just snipped it all together.
That's the thing. The rumor was they were going to cut it, and in my personal opinion, they should have. They should have made a Braveheart speech, which I think was maybe their idea. And
like
they
an anti-Braveheart speech.
Yeah,
like a
or
reverse
an anti-Braveheart speech.
okay.
You know what I mean? Like, we're going to do this, and it's terrible,
going to
and
take their freedom.
Yeah, have that rousing moment, but don't put it to
Eat
song.
some zebras and shit.
Yeah. But this is the thing. Jeremy Irons' entire character in the 94 Lion King is camp. For all those people at the Met Gala that didn't understand the definition of camp, Jeremy Irons in The Lion King is Scar. The movie is hyper-realistic and gritty and dramatic. Camp and realistic are literally the antithesis of each other. So I get why they should have cut it out, and I get why they wanted to.
Though I think they achieved some of that with Timon and Pumbaa, which is interesting because those two characters were able to go there. But I think their overall characterization of Scar as this darker, more serious character wouldn't allow them to do it. And I would say actually overall, despite Be Prepared being a bit of a fizzer, Scar himself was a bit of a highlight for me. And I felt that Chiwetel did a beautiful job voicing that character. I do feel that more than Nala, the Scar-Sarabi relationship was actually one that I liked seeing fleshed out and felt added a dimension. Alfre Woodard, also a high. But you're right, not the only reason, but the big reason to see this film is Timon and Pumbaa and Billy Eichner. I mean, he's gay and fabulous meerkat. I can't get enough. And
Emmy nominated as of this morning for Billy on the Street.
Congratulations, Billy.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I as soon as Timon and Pumbaa show up, because I love The Lion King, the 1994 one, but I love it primarily because of the relationship with Mufasa and Simba. So that first act in the 1994 version is what really drew me to it, Maude. But seeing this, I would have to agree that I thought Timon and Pumbaa were highlights, but I also thought that the hyenas, voiced by Keegan-Michael Key and Eric Andre, they really made me laugh a lot, too.
I just like that there was a new take on it. I mean, we could have done play-by-play, word for word, and they chose not to do that. And I liked that different take that they had on it. I think there's a reason why they had to change one of the hyenas as well, which was a good thing. I'm going to have to agree that Chiwetel Ejiofor's take on Scar was great. I love Jeremy Irons' version, but I think it's like, instead of trying to mimic or to do exactly the same, it doesn't work. Make your own version of it. And some of the characters ran with that, and some of the characters really faltered trying to do that. And I think that Scar was great. I think it needs to be camp, and I don't think that I disagree with having camp and realistic don't mesh together. I think when you look at the live action Beauty and the Beast, I think that when you had every scene with Luke Evans and Josh Gad, they went full camp, and they were the best parts of that movie. And then Emma Watson played it a little bit safe and didn't go camp at all. And that juxtaposition that you had, the synergy didn't sit there. And that's what you're having in this movie, where Chiwetel's bringing it, Timon and Pumbaa are going extra camp, and then you're having sort of Nala and adult Simba playing it very realistic and very safe, and they're not on the same page.
That's what's interesting to me, is that we're talking about the highlights right now, and I have not heard Donald Glover, Beyonce yet, because I didn't think that they were bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I just felt like I didn't feel any emotional tinges with their relationship or even in their individual vocal performances. I thought the performance of Can You Feel the Love Tonight played very well. I know a lot of people are upset that it was during the day, but I like the update on it. It's not going to do what the Elton John song does to me, but I thought it was fine.
It was getting there, and then it stopped.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm in this. And then they sort of they cut out the instruments, and it sort of crescendoed, and then it just ended. And
She licked his face, and that's
done
enough
some
for the
more.
kids.
I mean, that's lights out, let's go. But I'm like, they have chemistry. I bought Donald Glover a lot more as this sort of slacker Simba than I did as the sort of noble he lives in me kind of Simba. I definitely liked that aspect of his performance when he got with Nala and sort of went back to save the pride, etc. I was a little bit
I couldn't understand some of his words. He's like, I don't know anymore. I'm like, you don't want it? What was that? Sorry,
he's got mumble music.
You don't need to know the words. They're the same as the previous film. Every single line.
Stop. Also, he's mumble as a rapper, so I'm not surprised he's mumble as a voice actor either. So that doesn't bother me. But in the original, the side characters are just as more interesting. The side characters are always the most interesting part. Scar was the most interesting in the first one, and so were Timon and Pumbaa. So they just kept that over. So I'm okay with Nala and Simba not being as interesting, because let's be honest, they weren't to begin with.
There's highs and lows with this movie, and then there's one that I'm still confused in my own head that I'm trying to rationalize, and that would be the hair scene where the giraffe eats it, and then the giraffe, and I'm watching the hair blow, and I'm like, oh great, it's gonna get back to Rafiki, and then he's gonna know. But man, does that hair take an interesting off ramp through a giraffe's intestinal system?
It went through the circle of life. That was the
Yeah.
whole point.
It's
very
a circle
literal.
of life.
Very literal. I found it was kind of like a Forrest Gump feather situation mixed with just some strangeness for about, 17 minutes or something. I was like, we get it. I know what this
But in
is.
Forrest Gump, you never see anybody eat the feather then sitting on the john.
No,
Like,
it could have
this
been
thing-
in those chocolates.
Yeah, it's like you're seeing hair remove itself from dung and continue. The dung beetle was cute, but it's like, I thought that was interesting. I'm not ready to say it was
This
bad
was
or good, but it was
Africa.
interesting.
This
I will
is
say
how
it was
goes.
like the biggest
animals
difference
do
between the films, so I didn't mind that.
Oh, can we talk about the fact that Beauty and the Beast actually got some of their song in this movie? This is
Yes.
the first time we've ever seen Disney movies cross-pollinate here, and I was so about it.
Shared universe, your boy Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Except for Pixar. Pixar always references each other, but Disney proper, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was also a strange thing because this is such a serious, realistic portrayal, and then suddenly we have a
got
very
Big
like
Eyes.
Shrekky kind of pop culture reference, which I actually loved. But again, it's like I think showed that there were tonal inconsistencies that threw me a little.
That was from the stage play, by the way, too, since, you know. That was from the
I
stage
stand corrected.
That
then.
was from the stage play, too. I don't want to go down all of the, like, me and Joel later over some wine will be like, and this was from the stage play, and that was from the stage play. But that was a direct pull. When I talked to Jon Favreau, he mentioned that in the stage play, they reference Frozen, and originally they reference Wicked, and they're referencing things that are on the stage near them on Broadway. And since Frozen is now on Broadway, they made that sort of in-joke, like in the live action, or sorry, in the stage Lion King, they make that joke. And so he brought over the Beauty and the Beast one as his little Disney inside joke.
So because Jacqueline is our resident Broadway expert, what did you see anything in this Lion King that you're like, oh, that's definitely, I recognize that from the stage play and I'm happy they did it?
Yes. First of all, the Sarabi Scar thing is directly ripped from the stage play. It gets more Shakespearean, it gets more Claudius. The fact that Simba is not just apathetic, but he's more of a slacker, like not even a slacker, he doesn't have his stuff together in the stage play. Slacker's probably the wrong word. That was more what Donald brought to it. That's directly from it. There's a whole bunch of key touches. I think they pulled some of the, I would say, regality to it with the characters. That's definitely from the stage play. There's specific parts of Nala's dialogue and specific parts of Scar's dialogue that I remember specifically from the stage play.
But there was music that they could have gone with from the
Yes,
stage play, and instead they
everyone-
put the Beyonce song in,
everyone,
which
including
doesn't
myself,
work amazingly.
Everyone, including myself, wish, what is it? I see the king in you, or I see him in you.
Yeah,
I
like
wish
Nala
that
could
was
have
in
had
there.
a moment, which is a beautiful song that actually fits the tone of the other music. Whereas the Beyonce
That
song
does-
is great, but I feel as though it is like that thing where they throw in a modern song and it kind of just stands out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, there were some.
Beyonce wants her Oscar, and that's what she did the movie for.
Well, she sang for it. She trilled her heart
That's
out.
what she wants. Like, you know that's
Does
why
she
they
not
did-
have an Oscar yet?
No.
Not
and
for
she,
Foxy Cleopatra or something?
No.
Okay.
How dare you?
I love that performance.
I remade.
I heard it
rewatched
in
Austin
Nala.
Powers,
Oh, yeah?
and I got to
big
say,
time.
yeah, I would give her an Oscar in retrospect for that performance alone. And Maude, we got to ask you about the musical selections. I want you to kick off this because what was the highlight musically for you? And you can toss a low light if you need to.
I'm that awful person that was in the movie that as soon as the one song was done, I already was waiting for the next one, and I knew which one it was, and I knew how it was going to get set up, and it was fantastic for me. I loved that part of it. The opening, like the very first shot of this movie was actually the only one that wasn't animated. It was an actual shot of the sunrise coming up. So that was beautiful. Yep. That was great. Hakuna Matata. Seth Rogen can't even sing, and it doesn't matter. That was so great. It brought so much heart and soul into it. Gosh, all of them. No, I even liked Be Prepared. I think that it was your toilet break, sure, but like I'm just such a sucker.
If you would have called Be Prepared the drum solo of this movie, I'm fine with that because I will join you in that fight. I also like the performance of Be Prepared. Joel, your highlights as far as musicality goes.
I thought that Just Can't Wait to Be King was done as well as they could have done Just Can't Wait to Be King. So they sort of set it around the watering hole. It's kind of playful. It's kind of fun.
They had
I
all the
was
baby
with
animals
it.
as well.
Baby animals and stuff. The opening number, which everyone's seen in the trailer, very impressive. Again, I couldn't get out of my head with it because I was like, oh yeah, and this is the shot where the bird goes along the lake, and then this is this one, and then there's a zebra. And I'm like, but I couldn't get over it. But I thought Just Can't Wait to Be King was good. As I said, Can You Feel the Love Tonight had its moments.
Yeah, I think it had its moments for sure. I'm glad you brought up It Can't Wait to Be King, because I think that might be my highlight. I think it just, Hakuna Matata was so good, and it had such a showcase to do it, and I love Billy Eichner right at the end when he said he's riffing when he's in There's so much funny stuff in there. So, Jacqueline, the last word on music goes to you.
I'm just going to say them singing Beauty and the Beast. That wasn't meant to be that huge of a musical cue, but as far as I was concerned, it gave the best payoff. So, way to go. And that idea, Jon Favreau.
Well, looking forward to the future of Disney live action. There's a lot of question marks now, especially, again, we go back to the Tomatometer score. What does this movie change for you, Joel, as far as expectations going forward with the new Mulan movie? Do you think that now Mulan, obviously it's already in production, but future live action films, I don't think we're going to stop getting them. Do you think that we're going to see them stray a little more from the source material based on this critical reception?
I don't know that it's based on this critical reception. I think that The Lion King is is unique in that it's perhaps the untouchable property. So there was probably some trepidation around veering too far from what is perhaps the most beloved of the modern Disney era. I think these films are already in production, and I'm very excited to see that they do look like they're going to veer a little bit from the source material. So Niki Caro's Mulan looks like it's going a more traditional route, moving away. Perhaps there's no music, perhaps there's no side characters. I'm all about it. Don't get angry at me. And The Little Mermaid. I mean, not only am I excited that Rob Marshall, I believe, is directing it, and I thought he did an amazing job with Mary Poppins. Justice for Mary Poppins Returns.
Yes.
Such a great and underrated film. But he's directing it, and we've got, it's set in the Caribbean. It's very distinctly set in the Caribbean, which makes a lot of sense, and is going to be necessitating a lot of changes from the original. So I'm both excited about those, and I have no issue with them remaking these films. Like, The Lion King is a remake of Hamlet, which has been done thousands of times throughout the years. Aladdin, Disney did not come up with the Aladdin story. They have a right to retell these stories. My hope is that they find reasons for us to want to go to the theater again and find something fresh in them. And some people will find that in The Lion King. I didn't find it adequately enough for me. But keep going. I'm like, do your worst.
They want to give us reason to go to the theater, or they want to give us reason to subscribe to Disney Plus, because you have Lady and the Tramp is going to premiere there, and I think that's even later this year. And then you have Sword in the Stone, which is also in production, Maude.
Oh, that was my childhood right there.
I love Sword in the Stone.
Oh my God.
And I think those are going to be the more successful properties, because I think Disney needs to go away from the greatest hits, the Aladdins, the Lion Kings, the Little Mermaids, although I think it'll be great. They need to get away from these things that are so beloved, and they need to get into the smaller parts.
Go with some B-sides.
Yeah, go with some B-side. Like, give me some Lady and the Tramp, which is great, but can't compare that to The Lion King. Can't compare Sword in the Stone to Beauty
I'm
and the
also a
Beast.
Sword in the Stone person. So what is it about the Sword in the Stone that gets you?
Me? I'm a nerd.
And the King Arthur story,
magic.
I think it works very well in animation, obviously with comedy with Monty Python, but I think that is perfectly sourced for Disney Plus, because to Jacqueline's point, it may not grab the wide audience. It would do well if you release it in theaters, but I think that gets subscribers, that gets people invested in a streaming service, which again is the future that we're looking right down the barrel.
Money. You've got it. You've taken my money, man. Here, Disney, have it all. I'll watch it. I don't think that it's fair to blanket anything when it comes to Disney properties. I think that they're harnessing it in a case-by-case scenario. With The Lion King, it was nearly the same movie that we had in 1994. Mulan and Little Mermaid sound like it's going to be very, very different. Dumbo was a very different take altogether as well. So I think that they're going to apply whatever strategy is going to work best for that property. I didn't know about Sword and Stone, so that's kind of made my day. So let me have that.
Archimedes. How are they going to do Archimedes?
What's her name? Meg? Marvelous.
The witch.
Yeah, that's who I want to see. Also, I mean, look, we'll see what happens, but I'm all for Disney Plus. Plus, they're coming out with a $5 price point for this, so everyone's going to sign up for it. I don't think there's a lot of things that scare Netflix, but I would be willing to bet Disney Plus is
for
one of
sure.
Were you excited about the new Mulan, really quick, before we say goodnight?
100%.
Yeah, I'm down for it.
All locked into the trailer so far.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it looks
Especially
great.
the fact that Nikki's behind the camera, because I think that's what they're also going to do forward. Get filmmakers that have an identity and an attachment.
That's the Kevin Feige thing there.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Well, that's our discussion about the new Lion King, the 2019 live-action version that you can currently keep track of on RottenTomatoes.com right now, whether it stays fresh, whether it goes back down to rotten. Keep your eyes on that, and obviously come see us here at the After Show. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel right now and hit that bell. That's going to give you an alert every time we drop a new After Show. Love talking movies in full detail with y'all. Thanks to a great panel, and thank y'all for watching. Leave your comments below. I'm Mark Ellis, and we'll see you next time.